A fast-moving political crisis in Italy this week has hit the European Union 2 years after Britain voted to leave the EU. The worries came after Italian President Sergio Mattarella on Sunday blocked a Eurosceptic academic from becoming finance minister. Now, that candidate has been appointed to another post and the government is being formed in Italy. But exactly what has happened and what are the implications for the country in the near future and for the EU at large? Let us talk about it. I'm very pleased to be joined in the studio by two guests who are from Italy. They are Francesco Sisci, who is an expert on Euro affairs and a senior researcher at the Center for European Studies at Renmin University, and joining us from Shanghai, Michele Geraci, head of the China program at the Global Policy Institute. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. So, Mr. Sisci, let me start from you. Explain to us exactly what has happened since Thursday evening.
Well, there has been a lot of controversies around the name of Savona, who is a very well-known academic, a former minister, but he has been a controversial figure in Italian circles about his views on the euro. Somebody has depicted and portrayed him as anti-euro, whereas he has protested. He has never been against the euro. He has been for the reform of the EU and of the euro. Anyway, all this controversy has been settled in the past few hours, and a new government is about to be sworn in. Savona is in the government. He's no longer Minister of Finance or Economics, but he's going to be Minister of Relations with the EU, still very important position.
So, Michele, from Shanghai, what does this mean for the development of the situation? For a while, we were seeing some kind of a crisis. So with this formation of a government, is the crisis finally behind us?
The crisis is temporarily behind us. We have seen over the last 2-3 weeks almost a daily change of route, but now it seems that at least the situation has stabilized. We will have a new government starting tonight, sworn in this afternoon at 4 Italian time, and this is going to be the first time in the history almost of European countries that we have a government formed by two parties, the League and the Five-Star Movement, so-called populist, whatever the word means. I still don't quite get it, but let's, for brevity, let's call them populist. And so this is trying to bootstrap a change in Italy. We are, in a way, optimistic and hopeful that over time some of the reforms that these two parties have promised during the campaign could be implemented. There is a lot of controversy whether those reforms are good, whether they are bad, whether they're financially viable or not. But the good news, in my view, is that at least something is changing in Italy, which otherwise was maybe going into a deeper and deeper economic, not quite recession, but a no way out of a crisis which already has been around for almost 10 years. So positive response. You know, markets like clarity. We have clarity now. Now the two parties can get on with governing the country.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the several key figures here. First of all, Savona, we were mentioning. Some people saw him as Eurosceptic and thinking that by putting him in the position of the finance minister, basically putting Eurozone into jeopardy. So now that he is not in that position anymore, but in a different ministerial post, Mr. Sisci, how is that going to affect things? Does it mean that there is no possibility, there is no danger of the Eurozone being affected?
I don't think there was ever a danger of Eurozone being affected. I think there was a lot of misinformation and confusion about Savona. The main issue here is that there is a lot of disaffection in Italy for the European policy, which has been become some kind of scapegoat for Italian politics. So something had to be done, something had to be given to the public. And they found a name, Savona, who is in favor of Europe, but he has taken a critical approach of the recent European policy. So it was a compromise. In these very long hours, very long days, there was a lot of confusion. I think there was a lot of misinformation about Savona, but Savona wants the reform of the Europe. He actually planned for a reform of the Italian debt. A few years ago, he had a plan to reduce Italian debt from 130% of GDP as comparison to GDP to 100% of GDP. So he has a massive plan for changes in Italy. And at the same time, he wants some reforms in the EU. So he's a compromise figure. Now he is in government. He will be a very important minister. The markets and the Italian publics and the international public have digested him. So we hope we will see some move forward.
What about the new finance minister that has just been put into place? This new minister of economics by the name of Tria. Michele, to you now, how much do we know about this person and what are the implications of him being the new economics minister?
I think it's a positive development, especially for us here in China. He has been involved with China, has been here many times. I haven't met him personally yet. I will ask Francesco. I think he does also speak Chinese.
No, he doesn't. But
he's also a little bit. He does, but maybe he says ni hao. That's fine, Francesco. We will fill the gap, you and I, when he comes here. And he's also a little bit like Savona in the way, try to be a little bit more critical on terms of the European Union, the treaties, some reforms here and there, not so outspoken maybe as the perception was about Savona, like Francesco rightly said, but still someone that can feel the mandate of the League Party that has been campaigning to say, from now on, we will go to Brussels, we will go to Frankfurt to do the interest of Italy with a stronger voice. Because you see, the problem has been people find in Europe an scapegoat for the problem, which are also, and maybe mostly partly Italians. And the European Union always replies by saying, yes, but you guys you do not send us in Brussels people who make strong points. You know, we don't have a very strong presence, or maybe it's not perceived to be very strong. So hopefully Mr. Tria will have a domestic agenda and also a foreign policy agenda, because I truly believe now in the globalized world that foreign policy and domestic policy need to be going hand in hand. And the fact that he has a stance on Europe, a little bit of attachment to China, or at least he looks at China in some way, and he will take care, of course, of the domestic policy, plus this plan of reduction of debt, I think is a very, very positive Minister of Finance. You know, Italy is a very difficult country to run. There's a lot of things going on. So it's not that the new Prime Minister or the new Minister of Finance, whoever he is, can immediately make changes. There is a lot of compromises. Let's not forget that this is a government which is a coalition, an even weak coalition with only 6 members of parliament in the upper house, in the Senate, give majority. So the two parties that started from a very distant views, they managed to come together to do a common program, which is not the same as they had promised. Of course, it's compromise. So we will see. There is a bit of uncertainty still left.
Right. Mr. Sisci, you were shaking your heads. You're shaking your head twice just now. What did you want to say? No,
I think Tria, who I know very well because, yes, he did have a program of cooperation with the Central Party School, incidentally. We worked together. I talked to him this morning, a couple of hours ago. He's actually less controversial than Savona. He was chosen because he is less controversial, is bound to cause less problems with the EU. So they wanted something that he could smoothen the Savona effect. I don't think he will go in the European Union with big plans to change or to make big things. Is more like a person who will follow the lead of the party leaderships and of the presidents, Mattarella, who will be, I think, very involved in the running of the government. We shall see what he does, but still the ball is in the hands of Mattarella very much.
And what is the chances that Mattarella is going to approve this new government, Mr. Michele?
We never say 100% when we talk about the future, but I would say 100% now. It's all done. So we should see new government tonight and tomorrow, first day of work.
One last question. It seems that it's not just Italy that has been in trouble, okay, although it's walking out. The Spanish Prime Minister Rajoy's leadership has been pretty much cast into doubt when a lot of parties have shown their no confidence in. Do you think there is any connection in the two, and if so, any implications for the region?
I think there is a big connection. You mentioned Brexit at the beginning. People are growing a little bit unhappy with the general status quo. They take it on the current government, they take it on the European Union, they take it on whoever is running anything because they need to find someone to complain against. In the case of Rajoy, it's the government. In the case of Italy, it's been a little bit the past government and the EU. In the case of England, it's been the European Union and Brexit. So that's also part of the human psychology to find an scapegoat. Having said that, the reality is that these populist movement year after year are growing in numbers, and they are an unknown for Europe and maybe a way to bring back democracy as much as possible, because like Francesco said, we are all interconnected, in the hands of people a little bit more than it was in the past. Maybe this is only an illusion, but even if it is just an illusion, it will work for the next few years.
Okay, many thanks to my two guests, Francesco Sisci, Senior Researcher at the Center for European Studies at Roma University, and Michele Giraci, Head of the China Program at the Global Policy Institute. And that is it for this edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. As always, download the application called CGTN to watch the show on your mobile devices. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter using the handle The Point with LX, or go to YouTube and look for CGTN The Point. Thanks for watching. You've got The Point.